Sometime last night around 11:30, I felt the always beautiful, but oftentimes tremendously inconvenient promptings of the Holy Spirit telling me time to write a different homily for tomorrow. So forgive me if this is a little bit unpolished. Just a simple message for this morning, but it's certainly one that at 11:30 last night I needed to hear, so perhaps it's one you need to hear as well. As we near the end of ordinary time and we approach the beginning of Advent, we're already getting into some of these readings that anticipate the coming of the Messiah. Stay awake, be ready. And of course, that's a theme throughout the entirety of the Advent season, which is really right around the corner at this point. Be prepared. Be prepared for the coming of the Lord. Stay awake. And last night I was reflecting on this command of the Lord to stay awake. And it occurred to me, has there ever been a society in history as awake as ours? And I mean that sincerely. Sure, we're asleep in many important ways, don't get me wrong. Generally speaking, as a culture, we don't pray, we don't reflect, we don't make time for God. We don't recognize the reality of the spiritual battle that we live in. All of that's true. But has there ever been a society as aware of what's going on in the world as ours? Has there ever been a society that keeps vigil like ours does? You know, they used to call New York City the city that never sleeps. Well, I think that name is kind of redundant these days because we have become an entire culture that never sleeps. It's not just one pocket of people, it's all of us. We never sleep. We live with our smartphones in our faces, podcasts playing in our ears, the radio on, the TV on, the computer on, everything going all the time. And then you factor in, of course, social media. You know, I had to turn off the alerts on my phone because it was getting ridiculous. I'm sure a lot of you can relate. All the time, my Twitter feed, my Bleacher Report, my Instagram, all of this stuff going constantly. Israel is bombing Hamas. Daniel Jones is out for the season with an ACL tear. Bishop Strickland has been forced to resign. My college buddy, he's celebrating his 34th birthday today. Ohio is loosening abortion restrictions. This is all the stuff that hits me before I even get out of bed in the morning. I'm still laying in bed as I'm reading all of this. In this society, how can you not be awake? You can't even sleep, even if you wanted to, with all of the stuff that's constantly going on. You feel like you can't get a moment's peace with everything going on. It's absolutely nuts. You know, once upon a time, maybe 20 years ago, I don't even know, it could have been longer than that, it's hard to say, we used to have time to digest things, ponder them, discuss them, react to them semi-rationally. But now everything comes at us so fast and furious and with such radical accessibility that we're forced to live in this state of hyper-awareness all the time. If I'm not awake, I'm not going to know what's going on. If I'm not sharing my thoughts instantly on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, I'm not keeping up. I'm not keeping up. I'm falling behind. It's led to this societal boiling point. We're always angry about things that are going on in the world and in our church. We're always afraid of things going on in the world and in our church. We never seem to have rational or measured responses to anything anymore. Everything is always the extreme because we live like insomniacs, wired for constant stimuli. I'm awake, I receive, I react. That's the cycle. I'm awake, I receive, I react, and then I repeat. I repeat over and over. Yes, we are a very, very, very awake people. I have no doubt about that. But obviously, we're missing something. And I think our gospel passage today articulates this really beautifully. There are 10 virgins who are awaiting for the coming of the bridegroom. They're waiting to meet the bridegroom. 10 virgins keeping vigil. At the end, only 5 are allowed into the wedding feast. The other 5 are locked out. Why is that? Is it because 5 of them fell asleep and then 5 were awake? No, that's actually not at all what happens. If you read this parable, all 10 of the virgins fall asleep. All of them fall asleep because the bridegroom, it says, is long delayed. The bridegroom is long delayed. They all fall asleep. But then at midnight, there's a voice, a cry that says, "Behold, the bridegroom, come out to meet him." And the 10 virgins get up. They get up. The 10 virgins are awake. The 10 virgins react. But here's where 5 depart from the other 5. All 10 bring their lanterns, right, to go and meet the bridegroom, but only 5 bring enough oil with them. Only 5 react with wisdom. So who gets shut out of the wedding feast at the end? It's the ones who weren't wise. That's what we're told here. It's the ones who weren't wise. They were all awake. All 10 of them were awake, but only 5 were wise. The wedding banquet is not just for the awake, it's also for the wise. In our first reading today from the book of Sirach, the Jewish scribe Ben Sira, who's our author here, he speaks of wisdom personified. Says she's a beautiful, elegant woman to be sought after, to be waited upon, even to keep vigil for. And of course, this personification of wisdom is noteworthy because it is the precursor to the ultimate and true personification of wisdom, which is the incarnation of the second person of the Trinity, Jesus Christ himself. St. Paul calls Jesus the power of God and the wisdom of God. The wisdom of God. Jesus is wisdom. He is the way, the truth, and the life. In other words, wisdom is not something to be, possessed by only a few. That's how we think of it a lot of times in our culture, right? Wisdom is for the Yodas and the Mr. Miyagis and the Gandalfs and Master Oogways of the world or whatever else. Wisdom is not only for the old and gray-headed, the sage figure in the hut in the mountains beyond the village or whatever. Wisdom is expected. Wisdom is expected for every single Christian because every single Christian is called to seek Jesus, his will, his heart, his divinity. Every single one of us, every single person in this church right now is called to be wise, to live and to act with Jesus at the forefront of our minds at all times. So that's a question I have for all of us today. Do we act in that way? We may be awake, but are we wise? We may be aware, but are we wise? We may be receiving, but are we wise? We may be reacting, but are we wise? I hope we are, because it's only the wise who are invited to the banquet. So what does that mean for us? All of us who live in this hyper-awake, hyper-aware, hyper-reactive world. It means that we can never abandon wisdom. Never abandon wisdom. We can never forget Jesus. Next time you're on your phone and you're reading the news and you hear about something that's going on in our church that makes you angry, remember Jesus. Remember Jesus. Next time you're watching the news and something is going on that causes you fear and anxiety, remember Jesus. Next time you're about to get on Facebook and you just can't wait to type up this rash, angry response to something going on in the world, remember Jesus. Next time you're about to let your fear or your worry about world events influence the lives of your children, your family, your friends, remember Jesus. We should not be so awake and so reactive that we're inclined to act again and again without wisdom. Instead, stop, pray, ask yourself, Where is Jesus in this thing that's making me angry? Where is Jesus in this thing that is crippling me with worry, with sadness, fear? And if you can't come up with an answer on your own, ask the Lord. Ask the Lord yourself. Lord, where are you? Where are you? When civilians are dying in Israel and Palestine, and people on the news are talking about World War III, where are you? How are you present in all of this? When church politics make me want to smash my head through a window, and it starts to feel like a schism or something like that could be right around the corner, where are you? How can we see your hand in all of this? When I hear that my cousin is dying of cancer and my neighbor is losing her job and my friend's dad died in a car accident, where are you? How are you at work even in the midst of tragedy? Those are the questions of a wise person. That's what separates an awake person from a wise person. And if you're a baptized Christian, you should desire to be a wise person. You have no excuse not to be. None of us have an excuse not to be acting with wisdom. Anybody can be awake. There's so many awake people. Everywhere you look, everybody is awake. But being awake isn't the thing that brings you peace. Being awake is not the thing that gets you into heaven alone. You also need wisdom. I pray that our culture will recover wisdom before we destroy ourselves with fear and anxiety and worry and frustrated apathy. But at the very least, I pray that we can recover wisdom here in its home, in the church. Jesus has not abandoned this world. Jesus has not abandoned his church. Sometimes we look around like, where is he? We react to everything as if there is no God, there is no Jesus. But Jesus is right here. He's right here among us, present for us. On this altar, every single time we say Mass, he's present in all of our lives. He's present in every Twitter story and every Bleacher Report update and every Instagram message and every Fox News alert you get on your phone. I promise you, he's there. Trust in him. Stay awake, but trust. In that trust is wisdom, and in wisdom is peace.